Morton Waitsman has not only lived a lot of years, 101 to be exact, but he's also taken full advantage of longevity by doing a lot of living.
Yeah, I'll say he's a World War II combat veteran, a Morse code expert, a fluent French speaker, a husband to his wife Aviva for more than 75 years, and a professor and researcher at Emory University for almost 40 years. And thanks to a little help, now the proud owner of a piece of history once again.
We had to climb down the cargo nets of those motherships to infantry landing craft at about 4 or 5 in the morning.
Despite the passage of more than 8 decades,
the weather was miserable. We were seasick. We couldn't see very far because of the darkness and the weather.
World War II veteran Morton Waitsman's memories of the D-Day invasion are still vivid.
You had to jump from the cargo net, which was going back and forth. If you missed your jump, you went straight down to the bottom where about a mile of ocean water at that point. That was my first experience with wartime casualties.
Waitsman, a member of the 29th Infantry Division and a Morse code expert, survived the beach landing, but the helmet he was wearing that day did not survive the months of heavy combat that followed into the Battle of the Bulge.
The Germans attacked in late December of 1944, and they forced their way through much of our lines deep into Belgium. And we were dug in at that point at the southern end of the bulge, and the general told us there was no retreating.
The Battle of the Bulge was the single deadliest battle of World War II for United States soldiers, with some 19,000 American casualties, and almost another 50,000 were wounded, among them Corporal Waitsman.
I was hit by a mortar shell, and shrapnel penetrated into my scalp. I had shrapnel in my scalp, and I was out for 7 days or 10 days, whatever it was. But that's when the original helmet that I came in on the beach was blown off my head.
Mike Licata is a history buff, a self-described organized hoarder, and a dedicated collector of memorabilia.
I collect Civil War, Vietnam, World War II is my passion, though, and I've collected for 40 years plus.
Always fascinated with the 29th Infantry Division, but one piece that had eluded him, a helmet with that iconic blue-gray insignia. That is, until he found a collector in Wisconsin with one for sale.
I got the helmet, and there was a name in green, on a green piece of paper in between the liner and the helmet, and it was Morton Waitsman.
So Mike knew what he had to do. First of all, find out if Corporal Waitsman, who was born in 1923, was still alive.
So I looked up Mr. Waitsman, and I saw an article where he was at the his 100th birthday celebration at the VA in Decatur.
The VA would only confirm that he had been there a year earlier. Undeterred, Mike, the now social media sleuth, continued his detective work. He found a recent video of Waitsman speaking about the Holocaust, and as fate would have it, Licata recognized the Buckhead building in the video. And that prompted this moment when the 101-year-old hero and the helmet he wore in Europe some 80 years ago were reunited.
This is a replacement helmet that was given me after I recovered. So I wore this one as January of 45 till I was discharged from the Army a year later. But not before we defeated the Germans in Jülich, Germany, went on across Germany and met the Russians at the Elbe rivers. And this helmet I wore both that time.
And wouldn't you know it, Mike just so happens to have an original New York Daily News from April 25th, 1945, where that historic meeting between Soviet and American troops emblazoned the front page.
That's me, and that's the Russians at the Elbe River. The Russians are shaking hands with us, full of smiles, and we were full of smiles. The war in Europe is over.
And those incredible triumphs, as well as the many devastating tragedies that he witnessed firsthand, remain with him to this day.
I didn't talk about the war for 50 years when it was over because I had to put all that behind me. My wife didn't know a thing about the fighting or concentration camps. I just had to put it behind me. And meanwhile, this helmet is sitting someplace. And when I was reunited, I have to keep in mind that it was with me going through the fighting, concentration camps until the end of the war, and I had this as my protective helmet all that time.
For a collector like Mike, reuniting this American hero with his World War II helmet and getting to personally present it to him is the ultimate.
I've collected for so many years, and you know, my passion is named, and I research who, things, and to find Mr. Weitzman, it still is. It's the best thing that really has ever happened by far.
It's an emotional thing, but I've got to be very careful this is steel and fiber, and I don't want to become too emotionally attached to it, but it was there, and I can't deny that.
Now, as Weitzman said, he didn't talk about the war for more than 50 years after he returned home. He says even to this day, it's very emotional for him to talk about the things that he saw, especially at the forced labor and the concentration camps. He says he couldn't even tell his wife of 75 years, who incidentally he met on a blind date way back in the day at the University of Miami.
Wow.
So certainly some, and now it's kind of his mission. He didn't talk about it forever, but he wants to pass that along, you know, that firsthand account of the things he saw and the things he did and the war in Europe.
Truly an American hero, and that helmet stands as a testament of why he's here today. It's a great job with that.
No, it was a really cool moment to see those two guys together, and now they're friends for life as well.
Yes.
And you know, he's a talker, and he's wanting to share. He talked a lot more about his service in World War II. So we have a lot of that posted on fox5atlanta.com. If you're a war buff or a World War II buff, he gets into some incredible detail about his service, and it's really, really just a living history lesson.